Hi, I'm Brooke Morales, and today I'm going to be painting this sky using watercolor and invite you to join me as well. This is part of my 365 Skies project where I paint the sky each day for a year. 2024 is actually year 2 of this project, and I plan to continue it into 2025. But without any further ado, please feel free to take out your watercolor paints and join me painting the sky of your choice as well. And the best one, I feel, is when you get to look up and just paint the sky right outside. Today I'll be painting what is a very beautiful sunny day with a little bit of scattered clouds. It looks like it's going to turn out to be a gorgeous day for a really nice long walk. So I'm excited about that. But this isn't today. This is actually a couple days ago. But what I do is I like to paint the sky each day on one of these 3x3 cards. I will be transitioning this format in 2025, but as I round out 2024, I'm painting the sky each day. So here's just a couple examples of what that looks like. And for today, just like every other day, what I do is I start fresh with a piece of blank 3x3 Arches cold press paper. And first step is really just get it nailed down to the board here. So I use a little bit of masking tape. And this way it doesn't wiggle around on me when I'm trying to paint it. Okay, I'm going to put my weather data in. I think weather data is really useful. It gives you a lot more context regarding what we're seeing in a sky versus just painting the sky itself. So as a nature journaler, having the weather data here tells me what was happening. And on the back, as a bonus, if you ever want to write like a gratitude, you can do so. I didn't do so on that one, but on a lot of my days, I write gratitudes. Okay, so I'm starting with a Sharpie fine point for the weather so that when I paint this, the water won't destroy the weather data. It is November 17th, 2024, 8:24 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'm in California, Discovery Bay, California. So 8:24 a.m. Right now, the temperature is 40 degrees Fahrenheit. We have barely any wind, 2 miles an hour from the southeast. And it's not clear. It is about, it looks like it's about 20% cloud cover. So I'm going to put 20% CC. And I like to put which direction I'm facing when I paint my skies. So right now I'm facing south. Most of the time I'm facing south because that's where my little painting desk here is. Let me make a little room. I'm going to move these off to the side just slightly. I'm lefty, so it helps me have a little bit more wiggle room here. And let me put some water on the paints I think I'll be using today and also on my paper. So I like to pre-wet both my paints and my paper because I use wet and wet for my skies. And by using wet and wet, well, I'm not actually going to probably be using that warmer color. I might, but I'm just seeing white clouds. By using wet and wet, excuse me, it helps me work with the sky and emulate those cloud patterns as they are, because usually you don't see hard edges with clouds. Okay, getting this wet. Now the very back layer, if you're to think of the clouds as a layer that's closer to you, the sky is further from you. So I'm trying to do a decent job here matching the blues that I'm seeing. There's a gradient of blue. I'm using Cobalt and Cerulean here. And I want to try to get the saturation for this in early on, because once I get this down, it is going to start to dry about 30% lighter. And if I go in a little too dark, but then it dries, it will dry where it needs to be. And I'm noticing that the gradient is coming from, like, this is the darkest side of this cobalt blue cerulean mix, and it gets a lot lighter over here. So what I'll do is take a little bit of this off here, and then here. So I'm just tilting the board a little bit. Having this clip up at the top makes it easier for me to grab it too. I have a magnet on that clip. That way, if I ever want to stick the art toolkit that I'm using on top of the little clip, that makes it easier. Okay, so now I have my gradient and I want to start working on these clouds quickly. So to do this, let me just rinse my brush. Let me do a couple things. I use Kleenex a lot for clouds, but first I'm going to start with a little bit of my brush here. Now, the patch of sky that I am recording and the patch of sky I'm looking at, I'm trying to get them to be the same, but I might be looking at a slightly different part of the sky than where my camera is recording right now. We're both kind of locked in the same direction, but the viewfinder of my eyes is definitely a lot wider than the viewfinder of my camera. Okay, so now I'm taking a Kleenex and I've twirled it to make a very small shape right here so that I can begin to dab in these cloud masses, these small cloud masses as I see them. And this is really helpful for something that's like a really tiny horizontal cloud. So if you see I'm just barely coming in here, I have it twisted. I'm pressing as I need to with trying to create this pattern that I'm seeing, which is these kind of like light scattered clouds, tiny little bits underneath them. The next thing I'm going to look at too is to see, are there any little shadows or warm sections on the clouds? Or should there be a little bit more blue in here? Let's say we need to put some blue back in there. Let me show how this is turning out. I think I'm gonna get close to done on this part of it. So I'm just trying to represent what I'm seeing with this sky in this moment right now. Okay, so I do notice that in this section right here, there is a bit more, like where you can see more blue coming through. So I can add that back in. It's a bit trickier though than when you have the blue, when we put that initial coat down and then we lifted out the clouds. It is harder to go back and put that blue in. But to do that, what I found makes it a little easier is if you take a small brush and you wet that brush. So I'm going to put it in some clean water. So I'm just getting some clean water here. And now I'm going to dry most of that clean water off. And I'm going to, where I want to put some blue back in, I'm going to put some water in first. And that is for prevention, as I mentioned earlier, of those hard lines. Now, if I hit some of these blue areas, these existing blue areas with this water, it's going to cause like a blue bloom to happen and spread. So I want to be careful not to hit the already kind of wet blue sections. If this was all dry, it wouldn't be so bad, but it's still pretty wet. And I'm going to pick up a little bit of this blue in here. Let me move that water now. And then where I want to add a little bit of blue, I'm not going to come in and scrub my brush, okay? What I'm going to do is just dot my brush like this, very lightly. Just dotting it a little bit. I'm going to give it a moment. I'm just going to add in the main sections where I think it's going to be needed, and it is going to bloom out and spread and work through this section. And then if I want to diffuse that, I can rinse that blue paint off of my brush again, have clean water on it, and then very, very lightly play a little bit more with that water ratio, that paint, and scooting these things. Excuse me. I have had a frog in my throat this morning. Here we go. Just like this. And that has put some of that blue back in where I wanted it to go, where I'm seeing it here. So there's an example too of just putting a little bit more in. If you do it too strong, that's okay. While it's still fresh, just clean your brush, wipe it off, and there you go, just like that. And Bob's your uncle. I've got my sky. You just might have yours too. I hope this is helpful for you and that you also have an opportunity today to paint the sky, get outside, nature journal, even nature journal inside. This is a great example of how you can nature journal indoors. Thank you so much for joining me and take care. Bye-bye.